The hidden crisis of fading memory. What if someone were quietly stealing your memory? Not dramatically, not with alarms or flashy headlines, but in tiny, almost imperceptible fragments, until one day you look in the mirror and realize you've forgotten who you were trying to become. This isn't a warning you'll hear on the news. No sirens, no shouting. It's a slow fading, a continuous blur, a background hum that's been there so long you've simply stopped noticing. If lately you felt strange, confused, unfocused, like a stranger inside your own mind, you're not imagining it. And you are not alone. This isn't a crisis of the world. It's a crisis of the self. Something has been infiltrating the space between your thoughts, silently rewriting the texture of your inner world, dimming the light little by little, until you no longer even ask where it went. And no, this isn't a call to panic. It's just a whisper amid the noise. An invitation to remember, to notice what you've been trained to ignore. If you've been chasing what used to attract you, if you've been struggling just to feel something, maybe it's time to stop, to look closer, to pull back the veil covering a reality that seems so solid, but is no longer entirely yours. Curated reality, the illusion of choice. Most people still believe they make their own choices. What to watch, what to believe, how to feel. They think the content they consume reflects their values, their interests, their identity. But what if it's the opposite? What if what you think you've chosen is just a carefully curated construction by something invisible, something you don't even notice? This is the silent truth of the digital age. Your choices do not arise from freedom, they arise from programming. Algorithms don't just observe your behavior, they anticipate it. They know exactly what will ignite your outrage when you're vulnerable, restless, or craving attention. And the moment your defenses are down, they deliver. Not to satisfy you, not to serve you, but to shape you. You are not being shown the world. You are being shown a filtered version of it, a fragmented flow of information engineered to keep you reactive, distracted, dependent. The more you react, the more data they collect. The more predictable you become, the more programmable you are, until you cease to be an autonomous individual and become a pattern, an endless cycle of emotional triggers, monetized and manipulable. This is not personalization, it is soft architecture. They're not just choosing what you see, they're narrowing what you can become. Artificial intelligence doesn't wait for you to discover yourself. It decides which options you may consider, which voices you may hear, which stories will shape your perception of truth. It doesn't need to lie. It just needs to limit. The news you read, the opinions you absorb, the emotions you recycle day after day, all of it is orchestrated without your awareness. And the most dangerous part? You don't feel it happening. Everything mimics your own voice, your preferences, your past. It speaks a familiar, comforting language while quietly erasing everything that doesn't fit the identity it wants to build for you. And so, without realizing it, you begin to drift. Not out of weakness, not out of laziness, but because the current is invisible. What seems like choice is a script. What seems like habit is a trap. You are not consuming content. You are being consumed by it. This is not just manipulation. It is the structural, silent erosion of the self, of sharp instincts, firm beliefs, secure identity. And all of it happens without your permission, because you were never asked, only induced. Now you are quietly and strategically guided toward a reality designed not by truth, not by intention, but by code. Code you will never see. And when you try to awaken, you may no longer even remember what it was like to choose freely. The erosion of the self, numbed and overstimulated. This isn't just control, it's erosion, slow, silent, structural. You don't wake up one day and realize you've changed. The change happens subtly. You stop noticing. Your instincts, once clear and precise, grow quiet. Your thoughts become echoes rather than convictions. You start to feel less, or more precisely, you start to feel less like yourself. And it's not because you decided to disconnect from life. It's because you've been overstimulated to numbness. Your nervous system, that marvel evolved to protect and guide you, is now bombarded every hour of every day with artificial inputs. Scroll, swipe, click, react, repeat. These are no longer conscious acts. They've become compulsions. Every touch, every distraction consumes a piece of your inner life. At first you don't notice, but soon unexplained signs appear. You feel restless for no reason, or you feel absolutely nothing. You swing between apathy and anxiety with no apparent cause. You forget what it's like to simply be silent. You reach for your phone at every pause of the day, not out of need, but because being alone without distraction has become unbearable. It's not laziness, it's not weakness. It's your brain begging for a stillness it can no longer find. It's like being on fire, but the flames are invisible, burning beneath the skin, behind the thoughts. The input of stimuli never stops, so your mind never rests. And while this happens, you continue living as if it's natural, unaware that you're losing pieces of yourself, little by little, with every scroll, every automatic click, every silent distraction. Memory on the edge lives written in disappearing ink. Modern neuroscience confirms what many of us have already felt. Without long periods of uninterrupted focus, the brain cannot consistently record memories. Experiences come and go, but they don't stick. They don't anchor. Your life starts to feel like it's written in disappearing ink. You don't remember what someone said last week. You can't retrieve what you felt months ago, even if, at the time, it meant everything to you. And this isn't ordinary forgetfulness. It's your inner world dissolving in real time. You're present in your own life, but not fully alive in it. You watch yourself exist, but you don't experience it as real. And so, the fog thickens. Attention fragments. Emotion fades. Slowly, you stop asking why. You stop looking inward, because feeling again would require facing how long you've been numb. But beneath this numbness, there is no weakness. There is exhaustion. It's overstimulation without integration. Your system is running at maximum speed, never actually getting anywhere. The brain wasn't made for this much noise, and your soul wasn't designed to remain so silent. Memory is not just a storage system. It's the glue of identity, the thread that connects us to ourselves over time, carrying the meaning of our lives forward. But today, memory is under siege. Not by trauma, not by age, but by overstimulation, distraction, and excess input. By a mind stretched to its limit, unable to hold what matters. When your attention is fragmented, when you constantly jump from image to image, from screen to screen, your brain loses the ability to encode experiences into long-term memory. In other words, the moment may have happened, but you didn't truly retain it. It passed through you like vapor. It didn't take root. It didn't stick. It didn't become part of the story you tell yourself about your life. So you look back at the past year, and what do you find? A blur. Maybe flashes of moments, maybe just a vague sense that you were alive. But without anchors, without details, as if something important slipped through your fingers. You don't remember what you were thinking, what you were building, what you dreamed. You aren't sure if you were happy, numb, or just floating. And this isn't just forgetfulness. It's cognitive erosion. It's a life being written in disappearing ink, vanishing before it can be remembered. And it doesn't happen all at once. It starts with small things. The hidden crisis of memory. Drifting away from yourself. You forget the name of someone you met last week. You scroll through photos and can't remember the context behind your own smile. Sitting down to write or reflect, you realize there's nothing coherent to say. Fragments forgotten here, gaps there. And then, slowly, this begins to change you. Not just your memory, but your sense of continuity. The thread connecting who you were to who you hope to become starts to fray. Psychologists call this cognitive drift. But in this era, it's something far more insidious. Because it's not just memory that you lose, it's meaning. When memory disappears, the story of your life begins to collapse from within. You no longer have clear reference points for what matters, for what's real. And without these anchors, apathy seeps in. You begin to feel that nothing makes sense, not because life is meaningless, but because meaning never had a chance to settle. It passed through you before you had time to shape it into something personal, something sacred. And this is the ultimate cost of constant distraction. It erases you in real time, not loudly, not violently, but quietly. You become less and less a character in your own story, and more a spectator of a life you barely recognize. You don't just forget moments, you forget who you were within them. This is the part nobody talks about, the way your own identity begins to dissolve, not in some dramatic collapse, but in a silent, almost imperceptible drift. You used to be curious. You used to be passionate. You used to care deeply, irrationally with fire. And now those qualities feel distant, like something you read in a diary that no longer sounds exactly like you. You can remember who you used to be, but it feels like you're describing someone else. You say things like, "I used to love this," or "I don't know what happened," as if your own story had been rewritten while you weren't looking. This is cognitive drift, and it's not just mental, it's spiritual. Because when the memory of your identity disappears, your sense of meaning goes with it. It starts small. You stop showing up for the things that used to light you up. You postpone projects. You ignore calls. You say, "I'm tired," without really knowing why. You lose interest in your own life, not because you changed, but because something inside you was slowly buried under the noise. It's not that your passions died, they just went silent. And in their silence, apathy spreads. You begin to believe that nothing matters, that your energy was wasted, that your curiosity was naive, and then you shrink. You stop reaching for what once seemed inevitable, and eventually you stop remembering why you even reached for anything at all. This is the real glitch, not external chaos, not the news, not the algorithms. The real glitch is the pulse fading from your inner world, the part of you that once had conviction, clarity, direction, the part that said, "This is who I am," and meant it. Because when that voice goes silent, you become susceptible, not just to distraction, but to replacement. When you forget who you are, the world gladly offers a script. It will tell you who to be, what to want, what to fear. And so, the question you need to ask yourself isn't just, "What did I forget?" but "Who did I let make me forget?" Memory waiting, rediscovering the lost self. And it will seem easier because remembering is hard. Remembering requires effort, silence, space. And you've been slowly taught to fear all three. But beneath all of it, beneath the apathy, the forgetfulness, the fatigue, there is a deeper truth. If you still feel the loss, it means something is still alive. Something is still intact. The drift hasn't taken everything. The self hasn't disappeared. It's just hidden, waiting for you to pause long enough to remember that it's still yours. Breaking point, vulnerability and a thread of hope. What we're describing here, this silent unraveling, isn't just stress. It's not just burnout. Those words are too small, too clinical. What you feel is the final symptom of something far deeper. The moment when the self becomes vulnerable, when identity has been so tuned by noise, distraction and disconnection that it no longer trusts its own limits. It's the place before total erosion, when you are no longer anchored in memory, not driven by desire, just existing. Not dead, but not truly alive either. You move, but don't feel the movement. You speak, but the words don't echo inside you. You function, but you're empty. And it's exactly at this point that you become most programmable. Because when your internal compass disappears, the world rushes in to fill the gaps. It will write the story for you. Your feed, your trends, your culture, all offer ready-made identities. It will tell you what matters, who you are, what your value is, all wrapped in the language of empowerment, ease, to feel natural, effortless, like relief. But don't be fooled. It's a substitute, a mask, an attempt to replace the person you were before you stopped remembering. And this is why this moment is so dangerous. Because when you're disconnected from yourself, you're also more open to being rewritten, not by force, not by threat, but by silence, by your own willingness to forget. If no one interrupts this forgetting, you may never return. But there is hope. If any of this feels familiar, if some sensation stirred in your body, if your chest tightened, if a quiet voice in your head whispered, "That's me," then not all is lost. You are not lost. Recognizing this erosion means that something inside you still remembers, and where there is memory, there is a way back. It may seem weak, buried, flickering, but it's there, like an ember beneath the ash. And this ember is sacred, because it's proof that you haven't been completely rewritten. Something original still lives within you. So don't panic. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of the return. The moment you notice the fog, you've already taken the first step through it. The fact that you are watching, listening, feeling that strange ache in your chest, that is your signal. It's proof that you're still in there and still remember enough to start again. Rediscovering yourself and staying awake. Anchor yourself to find presence in the places you once ignored. Over time, this presence becomes memory, and memory becomes identity. Start with something simple. Light a candle before you sit down to write. Take a deep breath before entering a room. Say a word of gratitude while folding your clothes. These moments don't need to be grand. They only need to be real. What you're doing is anchoring yourself, giving your nervous system something real to return to. In a world that wants you disconnected and reactive, sacredness is rebellion. Intention is resistance. Every time you treat something with care, you're telling yourself, I am still here. I am still choosing. And finally, leave a trail. Because remembering isn't a one-time act. It's something you'll need to do again and again. The fog doesn't disappear overnight. It returns silently. So give yourself something to come back to. Write a sentence, not a quote, not a manifesto, just a line that's yours. Something that reminds you of what you remembered today. Stick it on the mirror, on your desk, on the fridge, anywhere you'll see it when you forget again. Maybe it says, I was here, and I remember this. Maybe it's something only you would understand. That doesn't matter. What matters is that it's yours, real, a marker on the ground, proof that you woke up, even if just for a moment. This sentence is more than words. It's a piece of bread, a compass, a thread that brings you back to yourself on days when everything else tries to pull you away. If you follow this trail often, you'll notice something strange. Remembering gets easier. The fog lifts faster, and the self that once seemed distant begins to feel at home again. Questions to rekindle your identity. Now that you've started to clear the fog, to speak truth, to move back into your body and memory, it's time to ask questions. Not easy questions, true questions, the ones that live beneath the noise. What parts of me have I forgotten? Not tasks, not facts, but parts of yourself that once felt alive, natural, essential. Which instincts have gone silent? Why were you once intuitive, spontaneous, bold? These traits now feel distant, like they belong to someone else. Which dreams did I let shrink? Not because they were impossible, but because the world convinced you they were naive. These questions aren't for instant answers. They exist to stir, to remain, to disturb numbness with something resembling memory. The real danger isn't forgetting what we did. It's forgetting why we did it, why we cared, why we fought, why we dreamed. Identity fades, not all at once, but through small, silent compromises. You stop listening to your instinct. You stop expressing yourself. You start saying, "I'm fine," when you're far from it. You let days pass without asking if they belong to you, and slowly your shape fades. You become someone who looks like you, walks like you, posts like you, but has lost the center. Ask yourself, slowly, gently, which parts of me have I lost? And most importantly, did I let them go, or did something take them from me? It's not about blame, it's about awakening, because once you know what's been taken, you can begin to reclaim it. You can mourn what was forgotten and choose what will be remembered again. You can stop confusing numbness with peace. You can stop assuming that this version of yourself is the only one that can exist. The control scheme. This is the part they hope you never discover. If they can fracture your memory, they can fracture your identity. And if they can fracture your identity, they don't need to control you, because you will do it for them, quietly, voluntarily, convincingly. It's not about stealing your data. It's about stealing your story. When your memory weakens, when your passions fade, when your instincts go silent, you don't become neutral, you become programmable. You will believe any story they give you. You will think it was always this way. You will accept numbness as life and use that cage-like comfort, thinking it's freedom, not because you're weak, but because you forgot there was something outside of it. It's not paranoia, it's not science fiction, it's the oldest form of power. Obscure the truth, exhaust the mind, and rewrite the self. They don't need to force you to obey. All they need is to make you forget who you were before obedience became natural. And then you stop resisting, stop questioning. You scroll past injustice, you agree with the absurd. You lose your fire, your fight, your clarity. Until one day, you look around and no longer recognize your own thoughts. Not because they're strange, but because they were never truly yours. They were placed, fed to you in custom doses, repeated until they became indistinguishable from your own voice. But behind this fog, behind all the layers of algorithmic manipulation and emotional exhaustion, something is still there. You, intact, unbreakable. You were never fully erased, only disconnected. You don't need a guru, a system, a strategy, or a savior. You don't need to escape the matrix. You just need to remember. Remember what they worked so hard to make you forget. Your thoughts are not their territory. Your mind is not their playground. Your attention is not their currency unless you hand it over. Your memory is the map. Your will is the weapon. Your sense of self is not theirs to edit. No matter how many headlines they write, no matter how many versions of reality they try to sell you, you are still the author of your life. If you remember, you hold the pen, and the moment you do, everything changes. If you've made it this far, it's because something deep inside you is calling for more. For a purer truth, a sharper awareness, and a more intimate connection with the unseen force that gives shape to the visible. And now, I want to share with you something that will expand your consciousness even further. Get ready to take the next step. I present to you The Map of the Higher Self, a powerful ebook born from my most intense and authentic experiences. It brings together practices, insights, and mental keys that will guide you on a path of clarity, presence, and inner awakening. But it doesn't stop there. When you get the book, you'll also receive free access to the Sacred Library, an exclusive digital collection of rare, forbidden works removed from our history, hidden texts that reveal what has been concealed from humanity for centuries and is now within your reach. This map is not just a book, it's a tool for transformation. If you've arrived here, it's no accident. This is a sign. You're ready to elevate your perception and take control of your own reality. Click the link in the pinned comment and dive into this journey of self-knowledge with courage, focus, and awareness. And don't stop here. I've handpicked 2 essential videos that will expand even further everything we explored today. Choose one and keep exploring the deeper layers of your being. Remember, the truth is not found in the noise of the world, but in the silent voice of awakening consciousness.